2025 stays in my heart and my memory as a year of crisis. Not a financial or career crisis, but crisis of identity. And it happened because of a great achievement. I finally got my German citizenship. But how I ended up there? Back in 2013, I was a student living in Odessa when I first time heard about the double degree program that allowed students to study one semester at the German university. I decided to sign up for that, not because I had an intentional plan to immigrate, but because I was curious and ambitious. And I had a good grade, so that's where the hard work I invested into my study paid off. I got accepted and moved to Germany for study. I had to admit, I arrived to Germany without speaking German. Yes, I knew few words, but mostly those that sound similar to English. And because my study program was all in English, that wasn't a problem at all. And to be honest, back that time, my only goal was simple: study for one semester in Germany, come back home for another 2 semesters, finish my master degree, and get the double diploma from two countries. That was it. No long term envisioning or immigration strategy. But I remember the very first days in Germany incredibly clearly. And just few days in, I had this quiet but very strong thought in my head. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I still cannot explain where these thoughts came from. I settled in a small town in Sachsen-Anhalt for my study. The city was mainly full of students or elderly people, and I didn't get straight to the life in Germany at its fullest. Something that people, for example, love in Berlin, the vivid life that one can dive deep straight from the day one. No, for me it was steady and slow. I know that many people complain about German bureaucracy, the rules, the paperwork, but back then it's actually fascinated me, if I may say so. The fact that there were clear steps, clear processes, and clear expectation, it didn't scare me at all. It actually made me feel safe. I remember standing in lines to register my address and noticed that no one tried to cut the line. People waited calmly, respectfully, and it was something that I didn't used to see often in my life before. Maybe it's my problem, but I really started acknowledging all those tiny details. And I noticed how clear the streets were, how trash was sorted on different days, how neighbors prepared their bags based on the schedule of tracks. I remember the silence of Sundays when the city slows down, and all I got to do while the weather was nice went to the park next to the castle and read my book, listening birds singing and leaves falling. And I remember how I started romanticizing my life, exploring new cities and getting new impressions. Every month we traveled somewhere new. And actually, Berlin was the first big city I visited back then without even knowing that just in few years later it would become my home. Somehow, in all those small details that I observed, I saw beauty. And that's when I understood I want to live in this country. I came for just one semester, but literally found a new home here. And once that feeling became clear, I started learning German seriously. And if you are long enough on my channel and ever wondered how I managed to build a life from scratch in a completely new country, learn the language, build a career, find friends, and become a part of communities, now you know the secret ingredient that I hold behind all those stories. It wasn't discipline alone or the talent. It was love for the place, with all its imperfections, extreme edges, or even challenges. Back then, arriving to Germany as a student, I actually found something I wasn't actively searching for. I found my new home. But I have to admit that migration, of course, wasn't always that romantic as it was in my first weeks here. The years that followed were not all vanilla sky, and there was a lot of loneliness when I just moved to Potsdam from my city and left behind all the people, routine, places, and in general my student lifestyle and started working as the full-time employee. There were moments when I learned German words literally minutes before the meeting, and over the appointment, when I was speaking to Hausmeister, doctor, office manager, or any other people I needed to have an appointment with, I listened not only with my ears, I observed with my eyes, reading facial expressions to understand what was really happening, trying to compensate the lack of knowledge with my emotional intelligence. There was constant alert in my head to not miss next visa appointment, fear of losing a job and having no money to pay the bills, and of course, long breaks between visiting home and seeing my family rarely. All those years, I somehow still identify myself as an immigrant, as a guest who was trying to do everything right. And then, 11 years after my very first day in Germany, I walked out of Bürgeramt holding my German pass. And for those of you who had never such an experience of receiving the new citizenship of the foreign country, I can tell that it's the feeling that's very hard to put into words, but it comes something with the grief of losing your identity and at the same time the joy of getting the new identity, how you can describe yourself in another way. But if you ever gone through the process of getting citizenship in another country, you'll definitely understand what I mean. Step by step, all over those years, I slowly was becoming a German. And now I can finally call this country mine, officially and emotionally. Yes, maybe I'm romanticizing immigration a little, but I know one thing for sure. Immigration cannot be only a rational calculation. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. To immigrate long term, there has to be a willingness to become the part of the new world and new culture, and to find a way to discover a new version of yourself inside this new ecosystem. And honestly, the search didn't end up with the citizenship. It actually still continues, this time with the new perspective and new opportunities. And if you ever felt that you are pulled towards a different life, a different country, or a different version of yourself, you'll understand exactly what I mean. And if you are on that path right now, you are not alone. I'm here with you. Thanks for watching this video. Take care and see you soon. Bye bye.